Hello all, welcome to part 18 of the Security Tube Metasploit Framework Expert course and certification video series. In this video, we will look at how to add additional functions in Railgun to extend its functionality. This video is part of the SMFE course cum certification. Please have a look at securitytube.net/SMFE for more details. Our certifications are currently being taken from students from over 30 plus countries around the world, and this video is made available free of charge to the community as part of SecurityTube's vision to provide free yet quality InfoSec education to one and all. Okay, so in the last video, we saw how Railgun could actually be used to call arbitrary functions in DLLs on the victim system. So is it too good to be true, right? So let's actually go ahead and try a function called netUserChangePassword, which changes the password of a given user. Okay, so here goes. This is in Net API 32. So we'll go here to the attacker machine. We already have a Meterpreter session running. Let's go into IRB mode, and then let's access Railgun using client.railgun, and then Net API 32 is the name of the DLL, and then net user change password. Now if you are trying to change the password of the user in the local machine, the first option is null, which is put in as nil. The second option is the name of the account. So we had created an account Metasploit, if you remember in a previous video. The old password, which is also Metasploit, and then the new password, which is Metasploit123, just as an example, right? Now let me go ahead and run this command. Now if you notice, immediately we got a huge traceback, and what this basically says is runtime error DLL function not found. Known functions net user del and net get join information. Interesting, right? So if we actually go to the appropriate directory, and if you don't know the directory, you could simply do a locate railgun, and then you would find the appropriate directory from the list of options you have. So let's go into this directory. Under Railgun, you have def, and this is where all the DLLs and the functions inside them are defined. And let's open up def net API 32, which is what would be required if we wanted to do the net user change password. Now, what you notice is there just seem to be two functions which are added in this file, net user del and net get join information. So what this actually means is that not all functions in the DLL are defined in Railgun, right? And this is where I think as more and more security researchers contribute to Railgun and find use for different APIs, they keep adding those APIs to the definition files. So what we would need to do is add the function definition for the DLL before we can use it. Now, there are two ways in which we can do this. So let's look at net user change password, and here is what we can do. Right, let me go back here. Right, let me just go back to IRB mode. Now, when you talk about adding definitions, you can do it in two ways. The first one is to add function definitions on the fly, which is you're already inside a Meterpreter session, right? Probably you may not get another chance to compromise the victim, and you immediately want that specific function to be supported by Railgun. So this is where at runtime you can add the function by using client Railgun add function, and then basically add function along with. The first thing is the name of the DLL, NetAPI32. The second thing is the function you want to add. The third is the output data type of the function. And then after that, basically what you have is the different arguments the function takes. They are data types, probably a descriptive argument name, and then finally if it is in or out in direction. So let me show you how to do this. So client railgun add function is what we need to use. We are already in IRB mode, so we have client railgun add function, and the first input, if you remember, was the DLL, which is NetAPI32. The second input is going to be the name of the function you want to add, which is net user change password. The third is the output data type, and the fourth is actually going to be all the inputs the function takes, or the arguments. So this is where what we are going to do is we're going to mention all the 4 arguments, if you remember from the previous slide. So this is the place for all the 4 arguments. And then the first thing you do is mention the data type. So in this case, you're going to use pwchar and then probably a descriptive name for that argument. So we have domain name, username, old pass, and new pass. So let's go ahead and use it. So the first thing is data type, and then you have domain name. The direction of the argument is in, right? Now let's move on to the next argument, which is basically the, if I remember, the username for which you change the password. Again, this remains the same. Username goes as in, and then you're going to have right the old password, and then finally the new password. Right, so you have old pass, and then you're going to have the new pass. Right, so everything looks perfect right now. Oops. So what this actually does is dynamically goes ahead and adds support for this specific function, right? I think I have one small typo here. So let's go ahead and add this. Now if you notice, this basically says that yes, this addition has been made. Now let's go ahead and access this function. So we'll say client railgun and then the DLL name, which is NetAPI32, and then you have net user change password. So the first thing was the server name, which is the local host, the username, which is Metasploit, the old password, which was the default password used by Metasploit, which is still Metasploit, and then the new password, let's say Metasploit123, right? Let's go ahead and run this. And if you notice right now, it allowed you to run this, and the return value 0 suggests that everything ran fine. We can verify that as well. Let's go back to the Windows machine. Let me log off, and let me try logging in as Metasploit, which was the original default password. So here goes Metasploit. If you notice, did it not work? I'm going to use Metasploit123, and there you go, right? Now, as probably you're thinking, it could be a pain to keep adding these functions dynamically, because a lot of these functions would be something you may want to use every time you compromise a host, right? And this is where what you need to do is statically define it in the right config file, the definition file. So in this case, I have already opened up the definition file for NetAPI32. Here is what I'm going to do. I'm going to add the function which we just talked about right now, which is net user change password, right? And here goes. So we have server name, username, all of that is perfect. And the next thing we want to do is add the old password. The direction is in, and then I want to add the new password, right? Again, the direction is in. There you go, right? Now let's go ahead, quit Metasploit entirely and reload the framework. So basically what I have done is kind of skip forward one slide, and I have located the appropriate definition file for the DLL, and inside it I have added a new function, net user change password, right? Now you may be kind of asking, hey, what about new DLLs? That is something we'll take up in the next video. So let's just wait for the Metasploit framework to load. Our victim machine is already up and running, right? So while it is loading, right, this is the power of Railgun. Basically, now you have access to all DLLs, all functions which those DLLs export, and at runtime you can call any of those functions. This gives you a huge amount of power and flexibility to do what you want on the remote system. And the best part, you can extend the functionality of Railgun at runtime rather than requiring to restart the framework again. Of course, for functions which you plan to use on a regular basis, you should probably go ahead and add them, even to check the code inside the Metasploit official SVN, if they allow it, that is. Right? So net user change password, where can it come in handy? You created a new user using the add user payload, and then probably decided, hey, you should probably have changed the password to something more difficult to guess by a fellow hacker. And that's when this can come in handy. Right, so let me break into the system. Set the remote host. Right, exploit the remote system. Change context to the Metasploit user. Unusual. So this is where I think probably it's taking some amount of time to run the DLL properly or something. Right? No tool is out there which might not have bugs, but always face issues which you would never expect. Right? Let's migrate to explorer.exe. Favorite option. This is so that we run in the context of the user for whom we want to change the password. Let's drop inside IRB and let's invoke Railgun net API 32 net user change password. This is for the same computer, hence null. The username for which we want to make the change is Metasploit, and his old password was Metasploit123, and the new password is going to be Metasploit, right? Okay, let's see what happens now. And there you go, right? We just added the functionality for the net user change password function to net API 32, which it did not have previously. That's all I had in mind for this video. So what we've learned is using Railgun, you can go ahead and add function definitions to existing DLLs, those which do not already exist in the definition files, either at runtime or by permanently adding them in the static definition files so that you can use them every time you invoke the framework. That's all for this video. If you like what you see, visit securitytube.net/smfe and consider registering for our course. Thank you very much. Have a great day ahead.